Hello everyone, welcome to Baji Rao IAS Academy. So, as part of our lecture series on UPSC mains exam question papers, we are explaining GS1 questions. Okay, so till yesterday we have analyzed up to 8 questions in General Studies paper 1, and now we will take up few more questions in this lecture. Okay, before proceeding, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also hit the bell icon so that you will get all the updates. Okay, so today's question is, we will discuss a few questions in today's lecture. The first question is, explain why suicide among young women is increasing in Indian society. Suicide is one of the most pressing challenge in the Indian context, especially among the younger age women. Okay, so especially among the younger age women, because of multiple reasons. It may be because of domestic violence, it is because of the institution of patriarchy, and it is because of sexual harassment of women at the workplace, and it is maybe because of pressure and stress on a woman. Because of all these reasons, the suicide rate among women has been increasing. So the UPSC has asked this question. Okay, so this question is part of Indian society. Okay, so Indian society also, UPSC has asked some questions related to marriage and suicide rate among women and the impact of mobile phones on children. Right, these are also very important topics, especially women, globalization, and impact of technology on children. So these are some of the most important topics in society section, for mains exam point of view. Now, before starting this answer, it would be better if you introduce some data facts related to women's suicides. In India, we have National Crime Records Bureau. So this Crime Records Bureau, this agency usually releases data related to suicides of women, crimes against women, and even farmer suicides. So therefore, it would be better if you quote some data related to women suicides in India. And first, you need to define what is suicide. Then it would be better if you give some facts or data related to suicide among young women. So here you can see in this question, first it is defined suicide. Suicide is act of killing or ending one's life. Okay, so suicide is act of killing oneself or ending one's life. It is suicide. So after defining suicide, you have to give some data related to suicides. For example, here it is given that National Crime Records Bureau. So, out of 1.6 lakh persons who died by suicide last year that is 2022. In 2022, 1.6 lakh persons had died, and out of 1.6 lakh people, 45,000 were females. And you have to understand here that this number has jumped from 44,000. This number has jumped from 44,498 in 2020 to 45,000, 26 suicides. And see, out of 1.6 lakh total deaths, 45,000 is not a small amount. So this shows the seriousness of the issue, and women have been facing certain problems in the society, and this has been forcing them to commit suicides. Okay, now you have to quote such a data when you write these type of answers. Now the first part of the answer is reasons for increasing number of young women suicides in India. This part you need to stress more, because this is the essence of the question. So therefore, you need to emphasize more on this part of the answer. So after that, you have to write some solutions through which we can minimize the suicide rate among young women. Okay. So firstly, there are some reasons which are given here. One is changing social values. For example, urbanization and globalization are the recent phenomenons in the Indian context. Okay, so because of urbanization and globalization, there has been evolution of traditional values. Either evolution or there is a rapid change in the traditional values, in particularly in Indian society. And The rise of individualism is also associated with urbanization and globalization. So, individualism is a Western concept mostly, but due to urbanization and globalization, individualism has increased manyfold. And this individualism further contributed to isolation and stress among young women. Whenever young women have been facing problems and they themselves isolate from the society, there will be no social interactions and they will not share their concerns and problems with the others, and this is where stress further builds up. If you look at the case of Sushant Singh Rajput's suicides that took place during the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown times. Now, when people are more and more isolated, there is a chance of thinking about suicides. Even during the lockdown times, also there is a lot of instance of people committing suicides. So therefore, the changing social values one such driving force for committing suicides in India. Secondly, education and career. This is also another major reason for young girls committing suicides, because now the young girls have been moving to urban areas for better education, better standard of living, and they have a lot of career aspirations. Okay, so they wanted to catch up with their male counterparts, and usually what happens ki generally the delayed marriages are becoming a new norm in the society. Either it is male and a female, and recently the government has also thought about the increasing the marriage age of women from 18 years to 21 years. Okay, 18 years to 21 years, and this was recommended by Jaya Jaitli committee yesterday. We have already discussed about this, right? So delayed marriages have been increasing societal pressure on young women, and also better career opportunities. If they do not find a better career opportunity, that would also build a further pressure and tension among those young women, and this has been resulting in stress and mental health issues. Whenever people are facing mental health issues, it is very likely that they would not consult any medical practitioner to resolve this problem, because in India the access to mental health care is very low compared to the Western countries, and it is taken as very lightly. So because of this reason, there has been an increasing number of suicides among young women. Apart from this, for example, discrimination in educational institutions on the lines of caste, gender, or sexual harassment, sexual violence, this is also driving young women to commit suicides in a large numbers. So, third aspect is gender discrimination. So, just now we have discussed about this fact. Gender discrimination is also another serious aspect, because young women in India, they often face gender discrimination. A gender discrimination which further results in a worthlessness, the feeling of worthlessness and depression among women. Now, this is like a chain, this is like a cycle. Now, when they feel that they are worthless and they don't deserve this, and they're more and more depressed, it builds pressure, it builds stress, and suicidal thoughts, suicidal tendencies usually develop among young women. So therefore, the gender discrimination is another major problem in driving young women to commit suicides. So other major problem is domestic violence also. See, during coronavirus pandemic uh, lockdown times, UN has called this domestic violence. UN called domestic violence as shadow pandemic. Okay, you just remember this name. So UN called this name as shadow pandemic. Why shadow pandemic? Because one third of the uh, married women, have been facing domestic violence. Okay, so one third of the global women have been facing domestic violence, and it is a very severe form of violence, and they very often don't report this domestic violence. Okay. So many young women in India experience domestic violence, whether married or unmarried. Both of them may experience high levels of domestic violence. And high levels of domestic violence expose women to mental health issues. Okay, they will have a mental health consequences, and this will further increase the risk of suicide among young women. Okay. After that, lack of mental health support, because as we have discussed that in India the access to mental health care facilities is very low compared to other countries, and people have no awareness about the mental health care, and in India also the resources are inadequate for mental health support. So because of all these reasons, the suicide rate has been constantly increasing among young women in Indian society. See, whenever you are writing an answer, it would be better if you write answer in points. Just write points. So first, introduce the point with a heading or subheading, and then briefly explain about it. So this way, you can produce a better answer, and you can also structure the answer in a very better way, and it would also attract the attention of the examiner. Okay, now I have told you, first you need to write the main reasons for suicide among young women. Okay, main reasons for suicide among young women, and after that you need to write solutions. Whenever you are writing any problem, whether it is a political problem, economic problem, social problem, you must write solutions. You must give solutions. You must give a proper way forward to address those problems, so that your answer looks comprehensive. Even if you write 2 point 3 points, you must write solutions. Okay, right. So here a set of solutions have been given to reduce the number of suicides among young women. Okay, and make them a productive asset for the society and the economy. The first solution is strict enforcement of the prohibition of forced marriages, dowry, and child marriages. See, in India, the problems like dowry, child marriages, and forced marriages are still prevalent, even though the government has come up with several legislations to prevent these evil practices. In India, we have a Dowry Prohibition Act 1961. Okay, 1961. We have a Dowry Prohibition Act, and even to prevent child marriage, the government has brought a legislation in 2006. Even though there are legislations, because of poor implementation of those legislations, still women have been subjected to dowry, child marriages, and forced marriages against their will. So over a period of time, this is a major driving force for women committing suicides. So what we need to do? We need to implement these programs in a letter and spirit more effectively, right? Strict enforcement of the prohibition of these aspects. Secondly, financial empowerment of women is also very, very important, because financial empowerment makes a woman financially independent. The first thing, when women are financially independent, they can make decisions not just about themselves but also about the family also. The financial empowerment and the decision making, improving the decision making of women, generally what happens ki they will not be subjected to violence, because they are empowered now, they know about their rights, they are financially independent. So therefore this would further prevent the suicidal tendencies among young women. Okay, so because when women are financially independent and financially empowered, the suicide rate will further decline. Now, the government has introduced several programs like self-help groups. Now, self-help groups are mobilization of finances among a group of women. So they mobilize finances, and they invest those mobilized funds in areas like manufacturing of manufacturing handicrafts, and the food processing, those things, so that it will be helpful. And government has also brought schemes like stand up india Startup India, to promote women empowerment, especially in the financial empowerment of women. The third most important aspect is focusing on mental health of the woman. Okay, because in India we have a low mental health access, low awareness, low resources. It is also very important that we should focus on improving mental health of are women. So therefore, it needs to be stigmatized and mental health care should be prioritized. Kiran helpline and Manas helplines need to be, made functional, or awareness about these helplines need to be further enhanced. And there should be a public private partnership. If, for example, if there is a university, and those universities also, they should be a dedicated mental health care mental health care facility, mental health care professionals, so that they can address the concerns of the respective students, and that will reduce the number of suicides among young women. And finally, we need to align national efforts with World Health Organization's Live Life program. So if you remember, World Health Organization has come up with Live Life program. Okay, Live Life program. So the main objective of this program is to prevent the suicide rates among women, and ensure the all-round development, multifaceted development of women. So therefore, whatever national efforts we have undertaken, these national efforts must be aligned with World Health Organization's Live Life program, so that it will bring a comprehensiveness in the existing reforms we have already taken, and that would ultimately prevent the suicide rates among young women. Okay. Now, this is two parts of the question. First, you need to write the major reasons for suicide, increasing rates of suicide among young women in Indian society, and then you need to write the solutions also, so that it would look comprehensive, and you will get more marks also. So, for this question, there's no need to draw any such diagram. Okay, there's no need to draw any such diagram. And in conclusion, you have to mention about gender equality. You need to mention about gender equality, and you should link it with sustainable development goal number 5. Sustainable development goal number 5, and you should also be optimistic about India's efforts in reducing the number of suicides among young women. Okay, so this is the best conclusion for this question. So this is how you need to write, you need to approach this question. So the next question is, this is related to Indian society. This question is particularly with respect to the impact of mobile phones on children, right? Because after introduction, after the invention of mobile phones and internet, there has been an increasing access to mobile phones even to children and parents also. According to a survey, around 746 million people in India, million people have access to internet. Okay, access to mobile internet, I would say mobile internet. So this would have a huge repercussions on not just children, but also the child cuddling process. This is a child cuddling process is a process through which healthy socialization, social values are inculcated among young children, so that they will be a social they will be a social capital for Indian society. They will be a social capital for Indian society. So what does the social capital mean? Social capital means people who have respect for their fellow individuals, who respect their cultures of the fellow individuals, people who respect law and order, rule of law, So all these factors would be considered as social capital. So a healthy child cuddling would lead to healthy process of socialization, and healthy process of socialization would build a sustainable social capital. However, now this child cuddling is being replaced by mobile phones. Now everyone have access to mobile phones. I mean, most of the people have access. So this access to mobile phones have both positive effects and negative effects also. But we need to focus on how uh, child cuddling, which is replaced by mobile phones, is impacting the socialization process of children. Now, in this question, what you need to do first, you need to write any data, any facts about people who are using mobile phones, especially children who have access to mobile phones, and how this has been impacting. You can quote any survey in the introduction. So after writing introduction, you need to discuss about the impact of socialization on impact of mobile phones on the socialization process of children. This is the second part of the answer, and second part, and also the essence of the question. So therefore you need to focus more on impact of this on the socialization of children. So I have already told you that whenever you are writing any impact, either positive impact, if you're writing about the negative impact on the socialization of children, you must write solutions for that. Okay, for example, if you write negative aspects of mobile phones usage on process of socialization, at the end, the 3 or 4 points you can write about the positive impacts of on the socialization. Okay, so that in that way the answer looks more and more balanced. Okay, now see, as I have already told you that first you need to start the answer with some data. You need to give a data. So here it is saying that around 23.80% of children are said to use smartphones. Okay, so when you give this data, it would be more impactful to the examiner. Okay, the candidate has given the data. He understood the question. It gives such a sense to the examiner. About 23.80% of the children are said to use smartphones, and while they are in bed before going to sleep, around 23.80% of children are using smartphones, and 37.15% of the children always or frequently experience reduced levels of concentration. This is primarily because of increased smartphone usage. So what happens when concentration levels have been reduced, and it is very probable, very likely, it is very likely or highly likely that his educational outcomes, his learning outcomes will further reduce. Okay, so this is the data given by National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Okay, now you have to give some data about the smartphone usage among children, and then you have to give the institute which has given, which has published this data. National Commission for Protection of Child Rights has given this data, right? So in the body part of the answer, you have to discuss the impact of increasing mobile phone usage on children, right? So briefly you can say that uh, while mobile phone itself is not inherently detrimental, okay, it is not inherently detrimental, or its misuse or overuse has implications. For example, just using mobile phones does not mean that it is bad or it is harmful. However, when you misused the mobile phone, or when you overuse, this will have a more and more implications, right? So this is what you can say about that, but you need to mostly focus on the impact of mobile phone usage on children, right? So firstly, hampered social skills. It hampers the social skills which are very necessary among young children. What social skills it hampers? For example, empathy, active listening, non-verbal communication, So these are some of the social skills, and they're very important for developing social capital. Developing social capital. So hence, this would further hamper the social skills among young children. And it also includes emotional intelligence, social awareness. So they are very essential for interpersonal relationships and also healthy relationships among people in a particular society. Okay, so the first thing is that it hampers these social skills among young children. Secondly, it impacts the family bonding as well. This is also a very important aspect. It also impacts family bonding. Okay, so how it impacts the family bonding? Because a family interactions are very essential for instilling values. Okay, so uh, within a family, the process of socialization is actually starts with the family. Okay, so process of socialization, a family plays a role, school plays a role, society plays a role, and peers also, students, other students also plays a very important and a crucial role. So therefore, family interactions are essential for instilling values among young children. So passing on cultural traditions and creating a strong support system. For example, if children are addicted with the excessive screen time, that will undermine the above discussed personal values. Okay, instilling essential personal values and instilling the social skills among the children. The third most important impact would be social isolation. This is very likely that when a child is addicted to mobile phones, he would associate himself. He would not participate in physical activities, physical games. So, hence, it would lead to social isolation of children when he is isolated himself from the real world or with his friends. It will lead to breakdown of his or her social relationships. He would not have skills to promote or to strengthen his interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships. So that is very important. And fourth most important factor is it stifles creativity and imagination. So among young children, creativity and imagination are very important aspects, because when a child is more creative and he imaginative, he develops curiosity, and that is where a solid foundations for a scientific achievement or academic good academic performance usually shapes or takes place. So therefore, increased or excessive screen time, excessive mobile phone usage further stifles creativity and imagination among young children, right? So this can further hinder child's natural creativity and imaginative progress, because when it impacts the natural creativity and imaginative progress, that would be detrimental for the next generation, because children would not have enough scientific temper, and scientific inventions are very important for any country's development. So the fifth aspect would be developmental changes. When students are increasingly addicted to mobile phones, it would also create developmental challenges. So what is type of a developmental challenges? For example, blue light which is emitted by screens, they can disrupt child's sleep patterns. Okay, so these screens, the digital devices screens, they can emit blue light, and this blue light disrupt child's sleep patterns. Okay, so it would further lead to fatigue, cognitive challenges, and the fatigue and cognitive challenges would further impact a child's ability to engage effectively in social settings. So it is all about the negative consequences of mobile phone usage on children. Further, the sixth most possible reason would be exposure to dangers and vulnerabilities of cyber world. Now, due to explosion of technology and increasing access to mobile phones, now everything going digitized, there has been an increasing danger of cyber security crimes. So therefore, there's a huge risk of our personal data, okay, personal data to cyber security crimes. So such inappropriate content, indoctrination, cyber staking, bullying, vulgar language. So this is one of the major problem, and young students and young girls are being targeted through cyber staking, bullying, indoctrination, and inappropriate content. So these are some of the impacts of these are the some of the negative impacts of child cuddling being replaced by increased mobile phone usages. As I have already told you that uh, any question when you are writing the problems, the challenges, you have to mention the solutions also. Okay, it is very important that you should mention solutions in that question, so that the answer looks well structured. Okay, the answer looks well structured, and it also gives a comprehensiveness, a wholesomeness in your answer. Right. So despite these negatives, despite these negatives, some positive aspects also. Uh, it also associated with some positive aspects. So what are the positive aspects? So what are the positive aspects? It includes the children would learn new skills. Okay, children would learn new skills such as new language that can help child to socialize with a wider group. Now we cannot completely say that mobile phone always have a negative implications. Earlier also we have discussed to some extent we can say that mobile phones have a positive impact, but misuse or overuse would be associated with negative consequences. So it would help learn new skills. And secondly, readiness to tech-driven world. Now, the world we are experiencing is a tech-driven world. So it makes children ready for the tech-driven world. And thirdly, it would provide access to entertainment. And because of increasing stress levels, it would be some sort of a stress buster among the children, right? So after discussing both negatives and positives of increasing mobile phone usage, you have to mention some measures need to be taken. They ensure the healthy socialization among children. Okay, so this is very important. You must mention those measures. So those measures include firstly bonding with the kids. Because of nuclear families, because of economic opportunities, there has been reducing bonds, reducing social bonding between parents and the family members. So therefore, it is very important that a bonding need to be developed between parents and kids. For example, spending some time with your kids. When we spend some time with the kids, it would it would make them feel that the mobile phones are not needed. If they need any help, the parents would be there to assist them. Okay, so it will further help them to get rid of their smartphone addiction. This is the first suggestion. The second suggestion is planning for a one-day trip frequently. See, all these points you can also write in your ethics answers. In ethics answers also, the questions are asked in this way. So you can also write such points in your ethics answer. Secondly, planning for a one-day trip frequently or a vacation, right? So this is also in a way develop our existing bonds with the children, so that the children no longer addicted to smartphones. Thirdly, technology is itself a solution. How technology is itself a solution? Because there's a kids mode. Whenever we are away from the kids, whenever parents are away from the kids, they can simply use the kids mode in televisions, in smartphones. So in a way, that would reduce children not to misuse the technology, or the not to misuse the mobile phones. And fourth, parents can encourage their children to do activity-based learning. So you see, this activity-based learning is very important to increase the concentration of children, and it would also increase the learning outcomes among children. So when they are increasingly engaged in activity-based learning, it would further reduce their addiction to mobile phones. And finally, leaving the child to play outside helps to quit smartphone. Now, because of increasing usage of smartphones, this has been leading to increasing isolation among children also. So they are not preferring physical games. They are not preferring physical games. Instead, uh, instead, they are just, you know, having mobile phones and playing games. So therefore, the children need to be encouraged to go outside and play the physical games, play outside with the fellow children. So that would in a way reduce the smartphone addiction and will also help the kids to improve their performance in physical activity, and this will also indirectly help their concentration. Okay, next. So the next question, okay, right. So you have written the negative impacts negative impacts of child cuddling being replaced by mobile phones, and you have also written the positive impacts and then some measures to address the negative impact. So this is how you need to structure the answer. When the answer has such a structure, you will get a very good marks, and it is also advised to write answer in points format. Okay, so you just need to write answer in a points format. So while concluding your answer, you have to conclude by saying uh, by saying the importance of developing a healthy social environment at family and a healthy learning environment at the school, how it will help reduce the addiction of children to mobile phones and make them better citizens for tomorrow. Okay, so this is how, in a progressive and positive manner, you need to write conclusion for this answer. Okay, so the next question is with respect to ancient Indian history, and this question is regarding Vedic society. Okay, this question is regarding Vedic society and Vedic religion. Now, Indus Valley civilization, Vedic culture, they are very important for our examination, either for prelims or mains examination. Uh, Previously, UPSC has not asked questions about Vedic society, but this time they have asked a question on Vedic society and Vedic religion. So, if you know about the Vedic society is further divided into two parts. One is Vedic society itself, and second is later Vedic period. Okay, so Vedic period and later Vedic period. We need to address both Vedic period and later Vedic period. How the society is in Vedic period, religion, the condition of religion in Vedic period, and also in later Vedic period, how the society is and how the religion is. And this is the first part. And in the second part, we need to write uh, uh, these features, the Vedic society features, still prevalent in Indian society or not. We need to give examples, and we need to write a more number of points than the previous answer, because this is 250 words answer. Since it is the 250 words answer, you need to write more number of points in this question, right? So how do we structure this answer? How do we structure this answer? First, you need to give a brief timeline about the Vedic period. So, what is the timeline of Vedic period? So, the Vedic period is spanning from 1500 BCE to 500 BCE, right? So, this was a transformative. This was considered as a transformative era in the history of Indian subcontinent. Why? Because it is a connecting link between Indus Valley civilization, Harappan civilization, to the later phases of Indian history. So therefore, it is considered as a transformative era in the Indian history of the Indian subcontinent, because this was the time a rich civilization emerged, and this civilization further shaped Indian culture and India's spirituality. So if you remember, Vedic age is the such age where the literature, voluminous amounts of literature had developed. The four Vedas were written. So therefore, it has further shaped India's culture and India's spirituality. Okay, so it is also marked by profound reverence for ancient scriptures. There was elaborate rituals and growth of philosophical thinking has also been taken place. So what do you mean by philosophical thinking? So philosophical thinking means just like thinking about the process of rebirth, karma, and dharma, and danda, everything. So all of it considered as a philosophical thinking. So we have Ardhashastra, and we have Manusmriti. So all these factors are associated with philosophical thinking during those times. Now, after writing this, you need to write some key features of Vedic society. So this is the first part of the question. Okay. So in the first part of the question, both in the Vedic period, features of the society, and the later Vedic period, later Vedic period, features of the society, and then religion also, both late Vedic period and later Vedic period. Now, if you look at key features of Vedic society, firstly, Vedic period social structure. It is tribal and largely egalitarian society. Okay, so this society is egalitarian society. Egalitarian society means there were no distinctions, caste distinctions among people. All are treated as equal beings. Secondly, social relations were based on kinship ties. Okay, so these social relations were actually based on, they were in India also. We have now a huge kinship relations, and that was practiced in Vedic period. Thirdly, there was no caste distinctions or caste divisions among the people, and occupation was not actually based on birth, and members of a family could adopt different occupations. Okay, so for example, uh, uh, now in the later Vedic period, what generally happens is people based on caste, they used to have occupations. For example, Vaishyas used to have occupation of trading, money lending. But during Vedic period, occupation was not actually based on birth. Members of a family could adopt, same members of a family could adopt different occupations and different professions. Now, this is the general social structure of a Vedic society. However, when it comes to the position of a woman during Vedic society, the structure or the social structure is patriarchal. Okay, the social structure was patriarchal. However, women used to enjoy, a respectable position in the Vedic age. So this is a significant distinction between the contemporary Indian society and Vedic age Indian society, because women used to enjoy a respectable position in the society. So women were educated and they used to actively participate in village assemblies as well. Okay. Now, when you are writing this, you need to remember these examples and you must mention these examples in your answers. The examples of some of the prominent women during the Vedic society are Lopamudra, Gosha, and Apala. You have to remember these names, Lopamudra, Gosha, and Apala, and they have contributed some hymns in Rigvedic age. We have discussed about the Vedic age, how the society is, and after mentioning that, we need to talk about later Vedic society. Okay, this is very important. So, how the society is in later Vedic society. So, earlier we have discussed in Vedic age there was no, a caste distinctions. There was no caste systems. There was an egalitarian society. However, later Vedic period, social hierarchy erased, and this social hierarchy further transformed into Chaturvarna system. And this Chaturvarna system further assigned duties to each Varna. Okay, so for example, this particular Varna, need to adopt these duties. There was a priestly class, and kshatriyas, they used to fight. Okay, so it has assigned duties assigned to each varna. Secondly, three varnas: brahmans, kshatriyas, and vaishyas. So in combination, so they perceived as higher varnas. However, Shudras were perceived as a lower varnas. Okay, so the caste system, the modern caste system, has also evolved from this Chaturvarna system, and caste exploitation is also evolved from this Chaturvarna system. However, earlier women used to have a respectable position in the society, but in later Vedic period, what happened was a strictly patriarchal society became a strictly patriarchal, and limited opportunities for women for education and participation in tribal assemblies. And this period onward, status of women started gradually deteriorating. From the later Vedic period, the condition and the position of women has been started deteriorating. For example, in Manusmriti, Manu described woman as a source of misery. Woman as source of misery. So, because of all these reasons, the condition and the position of women gradually degrading and deteriorating. Now, we have discussed a society in Vedic age and later Vedic age. Now, we need to discuss about some of the main features of Vedic religion. So, what are the main features of Vedic religion? So, the people in the Vedic religion, they have worshipped natural forces. So, what are the natural forces? The natural forces like wind, water, rain, and thunder. Okay, in fact, they have given different names for these natural forces. The names are Indra, Agni, Varuna, Mitra, Dayas, Pushman. Okay, so these are the male gods, and along with the male gods, the female goddesses were also prominent during the Vedic age. Now, the early Vedic religion was a sacrificial in nature. Okay, so yajnas used to take place, sacrifices were also used to take place during the early Vedic religion. Religion was usually materialistic in nature. What does it mean when we say that religion is materialistic in nature? It does mean that people used to offer prayers to respective god and goddesses in return of wealth, in return of materialistic benefits. So therefore, at that time, religion is considered as a materialistic in nature. Okay. So, so we have discussed the Vedic age religion. Okay, some key features of Vedic age religion. Now we need to talk about the later Vedic period, the later Vedic religion and its features. So in the later Vedic age, the religion has become more and more complex, right? So the religion has become very complex. Very complex means rituals, elaborate rituals, elaborate ceremonies, rites were developed over a period of time. And caste system has also further complicated the later Vedic religion because the priestlyhood has occupied the predominant position. And in the name of religion, the caste discrimination is further deeply entrenched into the Indian society. So therefore, firstly, the religion become very complex. Secondly, the speculative philosophies like transmigration of soul, salvation, and karma, so they have began to dominate the religion later Vedic ages. Okay, so for example, Buddhism believes in transmigration of soul. Buddhism believes in karma. So, in a similar way, these philosophies have further dominated the Vedic religion. Thirdly, the Trinity worship has started. What is the Trinity worship? The worship of Prajapati, Vishnu, Rudra was very predominant in the later Vedic age. Right? So, earlier also we have discussed sacrifices, rites, rituals have become more and more elaborate in the later Vedic age. And the kings used to perform Aswamedha yagas and Rajasuya yagas. So they were performed, and in fact, all these yajnas, sacrifices, rituals, rites were predominantly predominantly performed by the priestly class, and they have the monopoly over this performance. So because of all these reasons, they were at the top of the social hierarchy. Brahmins were considered as at the top of the social hierarchy. Now we have discussed the society and religion in both Vedic age and later Vedic age. Now we need to discuss the second part of the answer. The second part of the answer is features from Vedic period that are still prevalent or still prevailing in Indian society. Firstly, evolution into a contemporary Hinduism. Now the contemporary Hinduism which we practice has been evolved from the Vedic age. That is a worship of Shiva, the worship of Vishnu, Shaivism, Vaishnavism, and idolatry and worship of God in multiple forms, all has evolved from the Vedic age itself. Secondly, there was a continuation of polytheism. Continuation of polytheism means so, worshipping of God in multiple forms, that is polytheism, and this polytheism was widely prevalent in Vedic age and later Vedic age, and that still continues in Hinduism, even though some of the social reformers during the Bhakti movement and also social religious reform movement in the 18th century have advocated for the monotheism, but polytheism is still prevalent in Indian society. Okay, polytheism is still prevalent in Indian society. Now, caste system. Earlier in Vedic period, we have no caste distinction. Society was largely egalitarian in nature, but the caste system has developed. Okay, caste system has came into existence in the later Vedic period, and this caste system still continues even in Indian society. Okay, so the Varna system that was officially abolished in modern India, but it still influences Indian society. There were instances of caste discrimination in several places of a country. Okay, so therefore the caste identities still persist when it comes to marriage, occupation, and social interactions of people, right? So the other major factor is patriarchy. Patriarchy is also one of the factor, one of the key feature of later Vedic age society. Right? This patriarchy is still further continues in Indian society. Despite modernization and despite efforts to empower women, despite efforts to make women financially self-reliant and independent, patriarchy still continues in Indian society. Secondly, you can next you can write about religious ceremonies. Yes, in Indian society, particularly in Hindu religion, these religion ceremonies still have a very significant place. Still, people perform sacrificial ceremonies, and these ceremonies have an enduring influence of Vedic rituals. Rituals and ceremonies remain an integral part of Indian life. For example, when it comes to weddings, festivals, daily prayers, rituals and ceremonies remain an integral part of Indian life. Okay, so performing rituals similar to Vedic sacrifices. And finally, agrarian economy, right? So we very often come across the term that in India more than half of India's population is directly or indirectly, workforce is directly or indirectly dependent on agricultural economy, agricultural sector. So Vedic age, the economy was predominantly agri dominated economy. Okay, agri based economy. So this agri economy still continues. Okay, so agriculture remains the crucial occupation in India, and we are still continuing the tradition of Aryans who primarily the farmers. And finally, cattle and cow worship is still prevalent in Indian society because of its huge religious significance. And this is how we need to address all the parts in a particular question. Okay, so we have addressed the Vedic society, Vedic religion, and some of the features which were prevalent in the Vedic society now present in Indian society. Okay, finally, you need to conclude this answer in a positive note about the Vedic age. How a Vedic age is significant for India, and what are the best features of Vedic age we need to inculcate. For example, during the Vedic age, women were treated equally. There were no caste distinctions. So, in those things, you can mention in conclusion and end conclusion in a very positive note, so that it creates a good impression in the minds of the examiner about your answer. And this is considered as a well structured answer. And uh, the final question for today's discussion and for today's lecture is Delhi Sultanate period. So UPSC has also asked questions about the medieval Indian history. For example, in the year 2021, UPSC has asked about the Bhakti movement. Okay, UPSC has asked about Bhakti movement. In similar way, 2023 UPSC has asked about the technological developments in Delhi Sultanate period. So, what were the technological developments? So this is also a little complicated question, because traditionally UPSC aspirants never go in depth about the technological innovations in the Delhi Sultanate period. So if you look at the Delhi Sultanate period, so you can see this is the Delhi Sultanate period. Okay, Delhi Sultanate, the the area, the region which is under the control of Delhi Sultanate. So the coins which were introduced under Delhi Sultanate, and some of the architectural features that were built by Delhi Sultanate rulers. Okay, and this question has two parts. One is you need to mention first in introduction. You need to talk about the time period of Delhi Sultanate and some of the technological innovations and how they have influenced Indian society. You just briefly introduce, and after that you need to mention some of the technological changes that were introduced during Sultanate period. And later you need to write how these technological changes have influenced Indian society. Okay, so first you need to introduce Delhi Sultanate period. So Delhi Sultanate, so spanning from 13th to 16th century. So this was characterized by confluence of cultures, dynasties and innovations. Okay, so this was a confluence of cultures, dynasties and innovations, and you need to remember the time period. So it is prevalent from 13th to 16th centuries, and this period has witnessed introduction of major technological changes. So in this period, major technological changes have been introduced, and these technological changes have reshaped the technological landscape and also influence various facets of Indian society. See, this is how you need to introduce this answer. In this introduction, it is mentioned about Delhi Sultanate, and it is also mentioned about the time period of Delhi Sultanate. And after mentioning it, how the question has been explained, how the question has been introduced in a very good way. Okay, so this period witnessed introduction of major technological changes, and also it has reshaped the technological landscape and the society. So this is how you need to introduce in any answer, but it would be a little lengthy. Okay, it would be a little lengthy, so you can cut short this one, cut short and write a concise introduction. Right. So major technological changes introduced during the Sultanate period. So first and foremost is architecture. So write a side heading and keep it in a box. Okay, so just keep this in a box. And first technological changes introduced during Sultanate period is architecture and construction. So the Indo-Islamic architecture was one of the most prominent of Delhi Sultanate period. Okay, so the most prominent technological changes was introduction of Indo-Islamic architectural styles. So Delhi Sultanate period has introduced the Indo-Islamic architectural styles, and they have also constructed magnificent structures like mosques, tombs, forts, and distinctive features like domes, minarets, and intricate carvings. Okay, so they have also introduced these aspects. Secondly, use of arches and domes. So if you look at the um, the constructions of Indo-Islamic style, you can see the minarets. So these are considered as minarets and domes. So, okay, these are domes, and Indo-Islamic style predominantly have domes, and they also introduce arches. Okay, so this is the arch style, and this can be assumed to Delhi Sultanate period. Okay, and they have extensively used arches and domes. Some of the examples of use of arches and domes have been given here. For example, Qutub Minar, Alai Darwaja in Delhi, right? So the second a technological change that was introduced was agriculture. So that was introduced in agriculture. So firstly, the Persian wheel. So this Persian wheel is also known as Rahat in India. Okay, just remember this. So this Persian wheel is known as Rahat in India. So it improved the water lifting and irrigation techniques. When the Persian wheel is introduced, that is a major technological invention. Okay, that is a major technological invention because it has transformed the agriculture. It has improved access to irrigation from many fields. So therefore, the water lifting and irrigation techniques has made cultivation more efficient, and it has also increased agricultural productivity in the Delhi Sultanate period. Okay, so next, so advanced mining techniques were introduced because mining is very important for extraction of metals. So, okay, so therefore, oval shaft deep mines, so they have introduced such an advanced mining techniques, and it made a metal production benefiting tool making and weaponry. Next, textiles. The introduction of spinning wheel has increased the yarn production because spinning wheel is also very important for the textile manufacturing. Then that was introduced during the Delhi Sultanate period. Next, the pit loom. The pit loom was introduced in the 15th century, and it has increased or accelerated the weaving process. Okay, this pit loom or the spinning wheel are very significant for the textile manufacturing. Art and craft. The Sultanate period saw advancements in art of calligraphy, which influenced manuscript illustrations and beautifully decorated the manuscripts. Okay, so it has a huge aesthetic appeal of written text. So these are some of the categories where the technological changes have been introduced by the Delhi Sultanate. So you need to categorize them into different fields. For example, advanced mining techniques, textiles, art and craft, architecture, and also agriculture. Now we have addressed the first part of the question, and the second part of the question is impact on Indian society. What impact does it have on Indian society? Firstly, it led to the political unity. How it led to the political unity? Because of advanced mining techniques, extraction of these raw materials has led to flourishing armor and weaponry production. Okay, so this flourishing armor and weaponry production played a pivotal role or a very important role in expanding India's Indian empire and promoting political unity, bringing peace and stability in society. Okay, secondly, the architectural legacy. So Indo-Islamic architectural styles. So there was a introduction of Indo-Islamic style has led to a healthy mix of both the Indian style and the Western style. Okay, of the architecture. So therefore, it also has a huge impact on India's architectural features. And the agricultural advancements. So what advancements have been made in agriculture sector? So we already discussed the Persian wheel was introduced, so it made irrigation more efficient and agricultural productivity has increased manifold. So this Persian wheel is also known as Rahat. Okay, this is also known as Rahat, and this has improved irrigation techniques and it has boosted the agricultural productivity. And this is very important because it played a crucial role in sustaining growing population, supporting urbanization, and has also trade and economy further flourished. Okay, so trade and economy further flourished because of surplus agricultural produce. And lastly, trade and economy. Introduction, silver coins were introduced during the Sultanate period, and the introduction of silver coins have facilitated trade, commerce, and it has contributed to the growth of urban centers and the development of more sophisticated economy. Okay, so it has further led to the, it generally happens that whenever trade and commerce has been taking place extensively, then in those areas, urban centers usually develop. Okay, so urbanization has taken place, and urbanization has also led to increased migration of people from rural areas to urban areas. Now, historical documentation has also revolutionized, or technological changes have a transformational effect on historical documentation. For example, technological changes in manuscript production and illustration. So they have helped in preservation and documentation of historical texts. Okay, and these preservation and documentation of historical texts has led to transmission of the same knowledge to future generations. So this is how we need to write this question. Okay, now it is a well structured answer because we have addressed all the parts given in the question, and we need to conclude this with a balanced conclusion. So how can we write a conclusion? We can conclude this answer by saying the significance of the technological changes during Delhi Sultanate period and how they have influenced the technological changes in later periods of time, and how it has influenced or have a positive impact on the Indian society. So this is how, in a positive way and in a balanced way, you need to conclude this answer. Okay, so this is all for today, and in the next lecture we will discuss the remaining questions which are given in the general studies paper 1. Okay, thank you.